Hello, is the audio fine for everyone? Yes, I think we are all back on track. Hello, is the audio fine for everyone? So, yes, do let me know if the audio is not audible to everyone. So, hello. So, I had some technical difficulties, so that's the reason why I came late. So, just let me know if there is any network connection or audio difficulties or anything related to that, any technical aspects. So today's class we are going to discuss about the infamous Farm Bill and why it is important for UPSC civil service preparations. And one second, okay? Yes, and the reason why I have chosen this topic for today's discussion as a live session is that one thing is that at present time, that is all the mainstream media and all these journalists and professionals, they are not really showcasing what this farm bill or what the issues related or pertinent to the farm bills are. And one of the reasons is that they already have a fodder, that is all these Bollywood related informations and news and Sushant Singh Rajput murder or suicide, whatever the case may be. And everything is already garnering them enough TRPs and all these good circulations and all. So they're not finding any reasons why they should concentrate much on the farming sectors and the bills and the problems or the redressals by all these farmers and all. So we're going to discuss today why such a bill was infamous and why a bill given by the government, the Indian government, for the betterment of the farmers, but they're rejecting it. That is, suppose a bill is being passed by me as a person, I could be anyone, and they're giving out to me for my betterment, but I do not want it. I am, staging a protest, and I don't want this. I'm rejecting it. And there have been many issues in that which the farmers were called anti-farmers, and they are against their own wishes and they're against their own interests and all. So we are going to discuss why such a thing is being brought into the fore and why farm bills is being such a controversy. So I think before knowing the present situation, it is very much important and pertinent for us to know all the background and all these basic terms and concepts related to all these farming and agriculture. I haven't covered this portion in economic classes. That's the reason why I'm just giving a gist of all these concepts. We will cover it thorough and through all the sections when we treat the economy sections and all. So first we have to understand that during the colonial era, that is during the British period, the farmers had to face lots of problems. That is, I truly believe is that we have discussed about all these settlements, that is all the permanent settlements, Rayatwadi settlements, and all these agricultural impositions and restrictions and tax imposed by the British government. If you could remember the 1857 revolt, one of the major reasons why revolt was to a by and large extent, it was a successful event. The reason was the farmers' agitation. So farmers are those people who are at the hands of sufferers from, if you could just trace back like 300, 400 years back. And when we attained the independence, when we got the independence and freedom, our the constitution makers and all these government bodies and everyone had to make sure that these people's redressals will be seeked, and we will constitute a different department or different sections and all these special prohibition and special acts and privileges for all these farmers because they are the backbone of India. And one of the things is that they are 80% of the workforce of India. Sure enough, they don't contribute much to the GDP, and one of the reasons is that because these farmers depend upon all these varying variables, and which is like for example irrigation, climate, and fertilizer prices, all these seed prices, and there are all many short and small concepts that they have to depend upon, not because they have to, but they have no other choice for it. So So after this, that is after we gained the independence, lots of sections and lot of articles were included for them. And one among them is APMC and the minimum support price and price discovery. So we are going to discuss that first and then get on to the bills. So APMC is actually a committee or a department, and this is established by the state government in India to ensure farmers are safeguarded from exploitations by large retailers, as well as ensuring the farm to retail price spread does not reach excessively high levels. That is, if you could remember the Champaran Satyagraha, the Indigo, uh, that Gandhiji's or Mahatma Gandhiji's first initiative as for a freedom struggle. That was because these farmers were exploited by the British government. Then government, that is, they wanted indigo, and there were lots of issues. I don't think we have to go deep into the problems. Many of us are, pretty much sure about all these jump prints, and I don't think I have to go again into it. So there were lots of exploitations faced by these farmers. So that is a reason why, the government, after attaining independence, realized that we have to set up a committee. We have to set up a separate department, for them to seek redressal for. So for those reasons, APMC or Agriculture Produce Market Committee was set up, and this is majorly for, so that, I think we are all aware of the fact that, suppose, this is a vegetable. I'm really hope that this is visible. It's just a pen cap. Suppose this is a vegetable, but I am cultivating this vegetable. I could, contribute lots of investments in it. My hard work is invested, and the amount seeking for it, that is the fertilizers, for the seeds, and all the manual labor, everything will go into it. Suppose it took me 5 rupees to garner a single vegetable. So suppose this is just a single unit. This is an onion. Just for example, this is an onion, and it took me 5 rupees expenditure for garnering just a single piece. But when I sell it, I get only 7 rupees, and sell it in the sense that there are licensed traders or licensed middlemen who are gonna buy it from me. And when these middlemen, they keep on, selling it, and just keep on happening. That is one middleman to the other, and these middlemen sell it to the wholesalers, and wholesalers sell it to all these, market people, and these market people come to the retailers, and then we buy it. We buy it at such a huge price, and lots of inflated price are being imposed upon this. It took me 5 rupees to make it, and I got only like 2 rupees profit. That is, I sold it for 7 rupees, but probably this will be sold in the market for 50 rupees. That is 50. That is double the amount of being will be, imposed upon the consumers or the customers, and we have to pay such a huge price for all these commodities. So when you cannot just completely say against or go against the bill. So this bill was brought into the foyer, or brought into the special attention, in a way that such things could be reduced to a large limit. Sure enough, we are not, sure of all these credibilities of the bill. I think I should be more of factual when I discuss all these bills and all, because we don't know for sure whether this will backfire or be counterproductive. But the idea what they had, all these constitution or the policy makers, they had in the mind was that they had to ensure that the farmers, they are not exploited, that they have to get at least a minimum amount for these products, for these consume edible products, and these consumers shouldn't be priced or charged for such a high price. And for those reasons, such acts and such bills were brought in. But it is very good when we discuss it theoretically, but in practice, we are not sure its efficiency. So for those cases, why these farmers are going against it. So we'll discuss little by little, so you'll get more clarity into it. And the next important concept that we have to discuss is the minimum support price, or the MSPs. Like I told you, right, that for example, each farmers will be producing lots of product, and they'll be selling it in the mandi or the market set up by the state government. And there'll be lots of licensed traders to come and buy all these products, that is the edible or the perishable products. And suppose, for example, in hypothetical way, I am a farmer, and I am not able to sell it to a trader. It's well enough good how good I'm bargaining, or how good I am as a salesman, or how good I am, in a way of representing my product. It all depends on my salesmanship of selling the product at whatever price may be. So suppose I'm not very good at selling the product to a good trader, or I didn't get a trader to buy my product. So what happened was that the government has provided us with MSPs, or the minimum support price. That is, suppose your product are not being sold or not being bought by any traders, the government will ensure you the minimum support price. Sure enough, you wouldn't garner lots of profit, but at least in a way that you wouldn't be at loss. So MSP, I suggest you all take screenshots or at least just write it down, so that it's very simple concept, but it's a bit of complicated. So I really request you to take it all down or just take a screenshot. And as a civil servant aspirants, I think you have to take your effort, and it will be more beneficial if you just take it down, as I say. And when you take screenshots, it will be saved in the gallery, and probably you'll forget it after 2 days. So just take it down. And yes, just take down only the important points, just jot down all the points. So MSPs was set up because of that. And MSP is not applicable to all the producers. It is only applicable to only like 22 products, and these includes like cereals, pulses, and all these common products and common edibles. And for the other products, suppose I want to sell sesame seeds, suppose for example, that is not included in the MSPs. This will be under the discovery price or the price discovery. That is, for example, for those products which is not under the MSPs, their price varies totally depend upon the market. That is their demand and supply. It totally depends on that. For example, you could watch that these onions or shallots will be costing 40 rupees in this season. Probably in the next year it will be just 20 rupees. Probably like 2 years back, if you just look into, it will cost just 8 rupees. It's very much fluctuating, because the reason is that because of all these supply and demand, and these keeps on varying. And I'm not sure whether you're clear with it. I'll just briefly just go through the point. That is, for example, shallots or onions. I am producing it, and when I sell it, I get lots of profit for that. So I get an idea that okay, onion is the correct one. Onion is the product that I have to produce throughout the year. So what happens is that probably next year I have to. I was supposed to produce something else, but instead I go about again producing shallots. Or probably another farmer, when they see me saying that okay, that person produced shallots or onions and they garner lots of profit, so we should also do that, we should also produce these onions. So in those cases, most of the majority of farmers go into onion business. So what happens is that the next year, when the supplies goes up, the demand will automatically go down. Okay, that is, these two are inversely proportional. For example, when the demands goes up, the supply will be down. That is, when the demands goes up, these products are just already being produced, and it takes lots of time to produce it, so it is not there in the market. So in those cases, demand will go up, and supply, as it is, it's the same, it will go down. And in those cases, the price will go up. Okay, now the concept is clear. So in the other cases, that is when all the farmers realize that onion as a product will fetch lots of profit, everyone will start producing lots of onions for that. And what happens is that because there are lots of onions in the market, the supply will increase, so the demand will be same. That is, it's not falling, but the demands will be same. You cannot consume lots of onions just because the prices, or just because there are lots there in the market. So in such cases, since the demand is low and supply is more, the price will also automatically go down. That's the reason why there are lots of fluctuating price differences, and that is price discovery or discovery price. So when these farmers approach all these licensed traders, they set the price, or they both mutually negotiate and come to a price. And that is how everything is working throughout all these years. And what happened right now is that these three bills were passed by the government. That is the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce. Second one is the Farmers Agreement on Price Assurance and Farmer Services Bill, and third one is Essential Commodities Bill. And sure enough, they seems to be like in a way beneficial to the farmers. It is not so in the case, and that is what all these farmers are trying to justify. And the majority of the problem, or the majority of the issue, is on the first bill, on the first act, that's the Farmers Produce Trade and Commerce. So we are going to discuss all these three. That is, while farmers are protesting against all three, they are mostly against the first one. And okay, fine. So we are going to discuss the first one, that is the Farmers Produce and Trade Commerce Bill. And the problem is that since they are saying that they're going to eliminate, or they're going to take away the traders or these licensed traders, the problem is that In a way, they are saying that we are not taking anyone away, but we are just opening up the market. In short, we are giving you lots of options. In a way, you could choose your traders, or you could choose anyone who you want to sell. Okay, the problem is that, suppose for example, a trader X or a trader XYZ, a person named XYZ is a licensed trader. But since the market will be open to anyone to become trader, that is, since you don't have to procure a license to be a trader. For example, a big market company like Reliance Corporations, or these, more, or these, retail markets are there, like supermarkets and all these big, Walmart, all these people come into the foyer. And in a way, since they are powerful in all the other ways, because they are influential, they are powerful in, and they could impact everyone's life in a large extent. So when these people are being access to this open economy or open market, and it sure enough, they're saying that it broadens the area and allows more places to trade. But uh, this will mean that the existing traders or the existing licensed traders role will be diminished to a large extent, and in coming years this will be thrown away or given away with. The reason why they are stating is that this has been already implemented in states like Bihar and all. So what we can see, this was implemented in 2006 in Bihar, and that act is being implemented throughout the whole of India right now. So what in Bihar, what was that? Even though at first in Bihar they assured all these farmers that nothing will be done away with, nobody will be at loss, but the same concept was applied then. But the problem was that slowly and steadily they excuse me, the existing systems were done away with, they were taken away, and all these big corporate markets came, and there was some sort of monopoly in everywhere. And since all these Reliance Fresh and Reliance Traders and all these supermarkets came over here, they started, charging their own price. That is, they'll say that this is my price and this is what you could offer. And since all these government bodies will be abolished sooner or later, for example, MSPs and the APMCs, they wouldn't be an assurance from from the government. That is, earlier, suppose there were lots of traders, there were n number of traders, so you have variety of choices. And suppose you don't find a trader, you could always fall back on the government, and you could always go for the minimum support price. But the problem over here is that since it is small trader license with the big corporations and big companies, these traders cannot coexist with these big market or big corporations. So they will diminish throughout, and this whole company or all these big market corporations will exist. That is, all these Reliance Trends and all these, supermarkets like Big Basket and, big market retailers, they will exist, and they will impose a monopoly over the whole of market. Since there is no government institutions and government or bodies will not be there. So this is the fear in the minds of farmers. So they are fearing that these people will be taken away with. But the government is reassuring them that this will not be taken away. We are just giving you more options. But the farmers are saying that these traders cannot, compete with these big marketers. So that was the issue. And, just take down the points, okay? They're saying that we are giving lots of trade area, that, and but over here the existing the APMCs will is not mentioned. Since the APMC is not mentioned, there is a chance that this will be done away with in the future. So that is the apprehension. And over here, the reforms, that the changes that they brought in with the bill is that any trader with a PAN card is allowed and no license is required. So that means that anyone could join the market, anyone could buy the product. And suppose they create a lobby over here, these marketers or these corporations create a lobby in a way that no trader, no small traders will given a chance, will be denied permissions. So since they are, they are overpowering everyone, these farmers will be forced to sell all these producers to them. And the absence of license, unscrupulous traders can enter. And these are the fears which we have to, address. And no market fee or cess on farmers and traders, and corporate incentivize no level playing field for APMCs. Since all these, government bodies will be abolished, there won't be any cess or any fee on the market. That is, there won't be any transparency. For example, you get yourself enrolled into an institution, or to be a student, or to, to graduate for anything or something like that. So suppose, you joined for undergraduate program this year, so you have to pay the fee. But the next year onwards, they are coming and saying that no, you don't have to pay the fee. Anyone could be a student. So in a way, that means that your position as a student is diminished. Okay, that is, you won't be having an assurance that you are a student of that place. Fine, you got the idea. That is when the fees of the farmers are taken away. So that means there won't be an institution, there won't be a structural or formal institutions wherein they could go up and seek redressal. So when they take away the fee and cess, they are also taking away the redressal area or the place wherein all these farmers used to seek solace. And corporate incentivize no level playing for APMCs. That is, since they will come into the market, these farmers are, they are probably with 4 or 5 generations, they are totally dependent on these farm produce, they're totally dependent on these forms of occupations, and there is nothing else that they could turn about into. And one thing that has already been proven is that the suicide rates of farmers are very high and very large, and they are fearing that they are not just fearing their lives, they're also fearing for their land, and they're fearing for everything, for all the concepts, for everything, in the sense that they don't know what's going to happen, because it's so much of uncertainty is there regarding the bills and the acts being imposed, and it's not clearly stated, and it's very ambiguous of the government to give out a bill in a way that the already existing bodies are not clearly mentioned. And one thing that we could find is that 86% of land holdings are of several small marginal farmers, and these marginal farmers, or these below the line or below the poverty line of farmers, they cannot afford to compete against all these big monopolial powers and all. And the next reform brought in by the bill was that conciliation board to decide the farmer trade dispute, farmers not allowed to approach civil court. So in a way that, suppose for example, all of a sudden the government is issuing an ordinance in the sense an order saying that now onwards you cannot approach your civil court or your high court or your district court, or you cannot approach any courts, any lower or higher or supreme court. You are not supposed to seek redressal in any court. There will be separate institutions set up in your block or panchayats. It's coming to a lower sections. So in a way that there won't be a transparency. Okay, then you will fear for yourself. That is, there is no platform in a way which you could show your worries to the outside world. You cannot show what is going on over here. And there will be, for example, your block will consist of just about 5 or 10 houses. That is a single block when it comes to residential area. And so the government saying that for each block, a judicial system will be imposed in each residential block. So the problem is that, which means that whoever is in charge of these block will be, they'll be very much relative. They could be biased. They could have their own, personal intentions or personal favors. So this cannot be, in a way, blindly judged. So for those reasons, they don't want a farmer board to facilitate the farmer trader dispute. And the trader over here that the farmers are seeing is not the trader that they are talking about. The trader or the farmers are, are in fear of are these big corporations. So there is no chance that they can, compete against these big corporations. They cannot approach the civil court. So this is the fear that they are having, since the government is imposing, since the government is giving them a conciliation board to, to bring out, to decide on the dispute of all these farmers and traders. And the idea behind all these three bills is to liberalize the farmers. That is, for example, that is with the current scenario with the COVID and all these problems, and all these suicidal rates are going high, and certain implications were there that there has to have a certain reforms. That is, the last time we had a reform regarding the farmers bills was back in 2018. So it's 2 years since then, and not much of considerable changes have been happened. So they want to bring out a considerable difference. For those reasons why these bills were brought in, but I think there were certain loopholes in the bills, and it is not thoroughly studied, and I'm no one or in no position to judge or pass my opinions over it, because we are not sure for certain. Sure enough, it's very much uncertain, and there's lots of fog of uncertainty over here. And other important reason which I will like to point out why they brought in the bill is that we discussed about the minimum support price. But according to a recent survey and research study, that we understood that only 3% of people are only approaching the MSPs or the minimum support price. The reason why is that these traders, suppose there are 100 number of traders in a particular mandi. These traders will come say that, we are not buying your product, we need, such a less price. They'll negotiate in a way that the farmers will be forced to sell these products. Reason why? Their products are very much perishable, so there is no option left for them. So, there's only just less marginal people or less marginal farmers who actually get proper price for it. So all these points were considered and taken into considerations before, implementing such bill. But sure enough, we have to even, look into the farmers issues and why they are not going for it. They're only against it. And last few days before, I mean, I think last day, a tractor was set on fire in a form of agitation. They, openly show the agitations and why they against it. And I think in a way it has to be heard, and the opposition is also against them, but the opposition's words are also not being heard. And three farm bills were earlier introduced as an ordinance. Ordinance means orders, but the ordinance or the order cannot be implemented. That they have to be passed on by the Rajya Sabha only then, and after your president have to give your sign or give your authorizations to it. Only then it could be a bill or an act. And yes, and I'm really hope that my head is not cutting away the portions, and I'll just read out if that is there. That is, the three farm bills were earlier introduced as ordinance by the government in June, and the Union Cabinet announced that the ordinance were promulgated to ease farmers' access to market across the country, help them enter contracts for short returns, and exempt more farm produce products from the Essential Commodities Act, respectively. These ordinances were introduced by the Modi government to ease the impact of COVID-19 on farmers in India. Farmers soon started protesting in many parts of northern India, especially in Punjab and Haryana, that we all can see. And one thing is that, these MSPs, minimum support price, and APMCs are actually state centered. The reason why is that because, suppose a rice being produced in Kerala will be in a different way produced in Punjab. For example, the revenue or the cost that was taken for producing such an amount of rice will be different from the cost or the expenditure that's being incurred to make the same quantity, same commodity in a different place. For those reasons, it is a state imposed and it is a state body. And when the government started making it to a central legislature, to a central bill, they form of, sort of like generalize it to the whole. Each state or each particular, individual places or provinces have their own individual preferences and their requirements. So the problem is that since it's becoming centralized, the individual attention is not given to them. And for those reasons, this Punjab and Haryana people are, they're radically going against them. And since this were pretty much evident from what happened in Bihar, that is in Bihar, it was already imposed back in 2016, and it was an utter failure. And the farmers had to, bear the brunt of it. And at the time, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said the agricultural reforms undertaken by the government will empower farmers in the country. A majority of farmers, however, not in the agreement, that they are not going for it. And yes, these are just my explanations. These are the clips that I took out from the Indian Express magazines, Indian Express newspaper. So it will give you lots of insight into it. So the same thing, the informations or the points that I've said is being repeated over here in a sort of like pictorial format so that it's easier for you to understand. Yet would break the monopoly of government regulated mandis and allow farmers to sit directly and provide a legal framework for farmers to enter into written contracts with companies and produce for them. So when they say that, okay, we are giving you lots of options, you could get into, like, the farmers could get into lots of contracts with these corporations in a way that is like a sort of like a threat for these farmers. That is, big corporations or big companies are these Reliance Trends and all. So we cannot compete against these, big short corporations. That is, these farmers cannot, go against them. And if they could, they cannot, they have a fear that they cannot seek their redressals to the civil court, because a special committee or a special body will be constituted for them to, to seek into their problems and their redressals. And it, these are the reforms given by the government. Okay, so what is over here is what is the government or the Modi government or the NDA government trying to express. And I'm sorry, and allow agri-business to stock food articles and remove the government's ability to impose restrictions arbitrarily. So in a way, they're saying that we are taking our stands back in a way that you cannot rely upon us. So in a way, farmers are, they are fearing that they wouldn't have the backup of these government, like all these red results and the MSPs wouldn't be provided by the government. So those issues are there, and Mandis bring in revenue for state government, and this will diminish their relevance. Yes, for example, in certain states and all, suppose like in Punjab and Haryana, they're highly rich in the sense that all these agriculture produce. If we could look into like demographically, what we can find is that Punjab as a state have lots of agriculture occupation, and many of the people are dependent on the agriculture, and this is sort of like a stereotyping on them, but even then they are highly successful, they're highly rich and all. But the problem is that since it will be centralized, all the revenue garnered by the government will be taken away by the central government. And the problem is that suppose there is Punjab, there's Bihar, there's Uttar Pradesh, all these states are there, their revenue will be taken and it will be distributed among the states depending upon their requirement. For example, Jharkhand as a state will be a bit underdeveloped. Okay, this is just a hypothetical explanation or a hypothetical example. Jharkhand as a place will be, probably, not that very much developed. So suppose they will be contributing only 50 rupees or 60 rupees, but the government from the all the funds collected from the all the revenues collected will be giving them out probably 80 or 95 or certain rupees back to them so that they could work on those sectors. But states like Punjab, when they contribute 100 rupees as revenue, the government, when distributing the revenue, distributing all these funds back to them, they will be allocated probably with 30 or 40 rupees, which is totally unacceptable for all these people, because whatever they are trying to produce, whatever revenue they have incurred, they want to use it for their own betterment. And this, as a point, is totally unfair, as totally unfair for all these people. And farmers fear that this will end the minimum support price regime. Yes, it is being said over here is that in the previous slide when I say that the government's restrictions and impositions will be removed arbitrarily. So in a way, they're saying that they are fearing that the government support will be withdrawn by the government, and they do not want that, because farmer is those people who are not very much formally recognized over here. Formal in the sense that it is informal sector, and we are not developed nations or developed countries in a way that they have everything properly channelized, and they are totally dependent upon these variables, uh, variables, that is the climate and the perishability and the pest control, the fertilizers, the manure, the tools, and everything. They are dependent on it. So they are not, even if everything is favorable, even for those cases they are not sure of all these profits and the profit share. So for those total uncertainty is there, and to adding all these existing misery, the government is bringing such bills and such acts and impositions in a way that it's making it more difficult for them. And the farmer will have the freedom to choose where he wants to sell, but may not have the knowledge to negotiate the best terms with the private company. Yes, like I said, mentioned earlier when I started this video, is it totally depends upon their salesmanship. That is, if you're good at negotiating, if you're good as a person, for example, if the trader say no, I cannot buy such a high price, then you have to take your stance and you have to convince the trader or convince all these people that you have to buy our product at such a high price. And one thing problem, or this person who's at the disability, is that these farmers is at the disability is that their produce or their products are perishable. So there are certain restrictions upon them. They cannot say that okay, fine, I'm not selling to you, or I cannot sell it at such a low price. They cannot say it like openly or cutthroat manner, because the reasons is that their products are totally perishable and they have to sell it sooner or later. And for those reasons, they don't want the minimum support price or the APMCs being taken away, and they don't want any other new traders to come into the market. They want to have the existing traders with license, in a way that this will ensure that no big shots or the big corporates will get into the market. And there is hardly any regulations outside the Montes and no grievances redressal mechanisms yet. Yes, and these problems are already existing there, and and uh, that's all for today's class, and I really hope that I was able to convey to you in a way that you could understand. And so, if there is anything else that you want to ask me, or anything related to the point, and one thing about all these, okay, one thing about these bills that these two were, first passed by the government, and the last one was recently signed by our president. So, in spite of all these, total uprisal and total all these, agitations by the farmers, still the government went ahead with the third one and signed for the third one as well. And we're not sure what tomorrow holds for us, because already we are in lots of crisis. The economic crisis is there, and is lurking behind. And yes, that is there. And the next issue is the corona pandemic, and still not under the control. And adding to that, this contentious bill and these controversial bill that is being implemented by the government. And one of the reasons why these farmers don't trust these bills and these reforms by the government is that whenever these NDA governments say, we're going to bring out all these historic changes, so when they use the term historic, they kind of, for example, they got like for the demonetization bill was passed, so act was passed. So even there, the government said this is a historic event for the government. And when the GST was set up, even there they used historic. The phrase called this is a historical reform, and even now they're using the historical phrase. So whatever the times or how many times they use historical phrase, it was a total blunder. And they are fearing for their lives, and they're fearing for all their producers, fearing for their family, and we're not sure what tomorrow holds for them and for us as well. And if the farmers are not producing products, if the farmers are not being protected in a way, we as common people wouldn't get producers, we wouldn't get food or any other commodities tomorrow, and we all will starve to death. So we don't know for sure what's going to happen tomorrow, and let's see, we'll just wait and see, wait for the government to bring any amendments or bring any in a way that it could be challenged in the Supreme Court. We're not sure for so, because it's already being passed in the Rajya Sabha. So we're not sure whether it could be challenged in the Supreme Court. Yet there are lots of agitations are being demonstrated daily basis everywhere, but the media coverage for them is very less, and the informations regarding all these are also very less in the media portal, because they are already occupied. All these journalists are already occupied with what happened in the bigger Padakon's mobile phone chat history, and all the unethical issues. And I don't want to go into all these details, but I really hope that tomorrow, in some of the other day, these media will come back to the professions and do what they must do and be the fourth pillar of the democracy and be the watchdog of a society. So that's it for today's class. And I would like to give out one more announcement, is that I think we should always have this regularly, such discussions about such topics or any other topic or any discussions that you want to have. Since today's Tuesday, I think every Tuesday we'll set aside for such discussions, live sessions and all. So if it's okay with you, I think we should have it. And if you have any suggestions from your side that what kind of class I should take, what kind of discussions, or on what topic that I should bring out much clarity, you could just keep out in the comment section or just WhatsApp me whatever informations that have to be discussed and clarified. So that's it for today's class, and really hope that I was able to convey to you. And so